Can everybody hear me? Yeah. If it's too loud, just let me know because I can't. I don't know my volume. Whether it's loud or not. Thank you, Georgina, for having me tonight. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to talk about Android services. So, if you've been doing Android development, you know about services. You must be using a lot of, a lot of different services inside Android. Over here, develop location-based application. Okay, so you must be using like GPS services, and then you must be using network connectivity services to check whether the network is on, or you have coverage or not, and things like that. So what's so special about the services? If you don't have the services, you don't have an app. Your app depends on the services. So I'm going to go through a bit in high level because I've got only 15 minutes. So it's very quick. So forgive me if I'm talking too quick. You can grab me if you have any question, anything like that, on the slide, anything beside that. Just to give a brief introduction, I'm an Android platform engineer for a company called Lost Global. I've customized Android. What I do is I take Android from Google, customize it for our own product, for the full stack basically. I've got two products that I've designed. One is for the signage market and one for the HPR market. There's a third product on the pipeline. I also write Android articles for magazine. It's an open source magazine. Feel free to download it. The website is magazine.android.com. So I write a lot of very technical, internal kind of article in that magazine. So this is the Android stack. So this is what runs on your devices, and this is what normally most people who develop apps will have to understand and know about this stack. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about the second layer stack, which is the application framework stack. That's where all the services live in. So all the different services that you use, whether it be network, whether it be GPS, whether it be Wi-Fi, whatever it is that you're using, or alarm, all live in there basically. So in order for most of the apps to use these services, you will use this get system service normally, right? So that's the normal way of you getting the service, the system service, and then use that, with the API that's available. Now, what's so special about this is the bridge between your app and the rest of Android. So if you notice the previous slide in the stack, without that application framework, basically you don't have any access to the rest of the stack. So your app will not be working. There's no Android app basically. So that's why it's so special. That's why the Android service is very special. Most of the new features of Android, if you backtrack from Gingerbread all the way to Nougat now, you see a lot of new features always pops up in Android, whether it be fingerprint or whatever it is. Those features are mostly inside this. This comes in this in the Android services, and it's always the sweet spot for Android, where there's a lot of innovation, a lot of new stuff being tried out in Android in this area, because this is the area that most application developer will have interaction with. Without this, you don't interact with Android. So most of the time, when you look at new API, maybe the API 24, maybe the API 25, you will have a lot of different features available in these services. Now, if this is too complicated, or if I'm not making sense, then bear with me for a second, because I'm going to go through a bit high level in terms of what's going on inside the Android itself. There's two parts of how these services works internally inside Android. Now the reason why I want to show this to you guys is sometimes it's always interesting to know what's going on underneath instead of just knowing how to use it. Because at the same time, when you know, okay, this API does this, but how exactly does it do it? Why is it working differently if I'm using X device compared to the Y device? Because that happens, especially when you talk about interaction with hardware like GPS, for example. You don't find every GPS will report the same kind of GPS position. It's very different sometimes. sometimes, but most of the time it's very different compared to different vendors. But that's what's happening behind the scene. Now, the first time when it boots up, when your device boots up, there's a main entry point, which is called the system server. Now, this system server is you can say that the mother of all services. So this one takes care of all the different services that needs to be initialized when Android starts up. So that's why when you start up your device, you see your boot animation logo. Then it takes time, it takes time, it takes time. One of those processes that it's doing is this. It's initializing all those services. Now, if one of the services fail to start, it will keep on showing you the boot animation non-stop. Then you know something is wrong. Now, the system server will communicate with what is called the system service manager. Now, the system service manager is like the child of the system server. And what it does is actually, it initializes all the different services like alarm manager service, location manager service, or any kind of services that's available inside Android via the onStart method. So there is an onStart method that is defined the system service. If you look at the top part of the system service, most of the services inside Android is an extension or it extends the system service class. And one of the abstract method is called the onStart, which it is called when the system service manager is being called by the system server. So once the onStart is called for these different services, the service itself will register itself to what is called a service manager, right? So there's a self-registration process behind it that is doing behind the scene to the service manager. Now, if you look at the bottom part on the runtime, you have your app, right? So you write your app, and then you have access to the context, and then you write the code get system service, and then from the get system service, what will happen is there is a behind the scene process that's getting the context implementation, which is the context impl, in your case, that it will get that service that will initialize the first part in the boot process from the service manager. So if you look at the overall picture, the service manager is the one central location where it stores, you can say pointers or object pointers to that services that's available inside Android. So you as an application developer, you don't have access to the service manager directly, but you have through different layers of object that is made available by the API. Now, really low-level detail on the service manager. The service manager doesn't do everything by itself. It depends on what is called binder. Everybody familiar with the binder? Yeah. Okay. So the binder is the link between all the different part of application, framework, whatever it is inside Android, that bind them together. It's like the glue. Without that binder, everything will fall apart. You see? So the service manager will depend on service manager native, and that in turn will go to the binder, and then that will go all the way to the lower level. It's go to the lower level code like the C and C++ code, and then it goes to the kernel code basically. So I know that's a mouthful, but there's a high level process behind it. But in terms of what you as an application developer must know is, if one of those parts is broken, the whole thing broke. The whole thing will break, right? So that's why sometimes you will hear, oh, my phone just restarted. Oh, my phone just shut down by itself. What's the story? Why my battery is being drained? Because something is wrong. Something is not right behind that. You see? So all this kind of thing is happening at the background. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to end this talk by one of the articles I've written in the April 2016 in Odroid talks about building your own SDK. It talks in details on how you can create your own SDK. So you can become your own Google if you want by creating your own SDK and then create your own custom Android. And they'll walk you through how to create your own system service, how the system service works, how the different parts talk to each other in more detail and more technical detail, basically. So that's it.